The nationwide protests over George Floyd's murder have been incredibly successful in swaying public opinion, and now even military leaders are speaking out against the president's attempts to suppress them. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. The country has been convulsing with outrage over the brutal murder of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police, and the president has decided to respond with chilling authoritarian threats to unleash the military on American citizens in American cities, a threat he repeated yesterday in an interview with his former press secretary, Sean Spicer.
Will you send in the military to any cities in particular to restore that law and order?
Well, it depends. I don't think we'll have to. We have very strong powers to do it. The National Guard is customary, and we have a very powerful National Guard, over 300,000 men and women, and we can do pretty much whatever we want.
First of all, no, you can't. Second, it's nice to see Sean Spicer somewhere other than the bargain bin at Barnes & Noble's. Sorry, holding up the wobbly leg on the bargain bin at Barnes & Noble's. I guess this is what's left for you after you flunk out for Dancing with the Stars. I'd hate to be this guy's agent. Well, I never got a call back from Naked and Afraid, but how would you like to interview the guy who fired you? All right, pay scale. It's clear the mass demonstrations, which have been overwhelmingly peaceful, are having a major impact. Just last night, Trump's former Defense Secretary General James Mattis expressed support for the protests and denounced Trump's use of military police to patrol D.C. and tear gas protesters for his church photo op, which of course led Trump to lash out with a bunch of cuckoo tweets.
When I joined the military some 50 years ago, I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Never did I dream that troops taking that same oath would be ordered under any circumstance to violate the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens. We must reject and hold accountable those in office who would make a mockery of our Constitution.
Last night, the president tweeted, "Probably the only thing Barack Obama and I have in common is that we both had the honor of firing Jim Mattis, the world's most overrated general. I asked for his letter of resignation and felt great about it. His nickname was Chaos, which I didn't like, and changed to Mad Dog."
Okay, first of all, he resigned. You didn't fire him. Second, you didn't come up with the name Mad Dog. He's had it since at least 2004, and we know you didn't come up with it because it's a cool nickname, and your nicknames suck. Sorry, dude. If you come up with a nickname for him, it would have been something like Lame James or Jumpin' Jim. Jumpin' Jim Mattis. You want to jump on up to the microphone? Always jumpin' Jim. Mattis's decision to speak out is yet another indication of the truly precarious moment we're in. Trump and the police establishment are obviously threatened by the widespread popularity of the protests, which have been both effective and everywhere.
Protests continue nationwide today, pleading for drastic changes in America's law enforcement. Over the weekend, demonstrations were reported in all 50 states and the District of Columbia.
The map is finally all red, but not for the reason Trump wants. His aides probably had to mute the TV to keep him from losing his mind. Look, Mr. President, the election's over and you won all 50 states. Now you can go back into the bunker and stay there for the next 4 years. Okay, but if anyone asks, I'm not hiding in the bunker. I'm just checking to make sure the light switches work, okay? That's all. And the demonstrations have already clearly had results, specifically in swaying public opinion. They're proving that direct mass action in the streets works. One poll found that a majority of the American public says that the anger that led to these protests is fully justified. And another poll found that 64% of American adults were sympathetic to people who are out protesting right now. A little more than half of rural residents said they were sympathetic to the protesters, while 7 out of 10 suburbanites agreed. Damn, usually the only thing you can get that many suburbanites to agree on is their favorite shopping mall food chain. It's always Auntie Anne's. And if you say Sbarro, just take a long look in the mirror. If you're missing Sbarro right now, just take some styrofoam and melt some string cheese on top of it. There, boom, there's your Sbarros. Sbarros! That said, I would give anything right now to go to a mall, eat some Sbarro, and browse one of those random kiosks that sell calendars with puppies on them. Oh, you guys, I miss going outside. Even when it's just to go right back inside. The point is, the protests have profoundly swayed public opinion, and this kind of massive, sustained political mobilization represents a direct threat to the unjust system of predatory policing we currently have, which is why the people who benefit from that system are lashing out so aggressively, one after another. We've watched countless videos of local police departments arresting or violently attacking peaceful protesters and reporters lawfully exercising their First Amendment rights. In Fort Lauderdale, for example, an officer was caught on camera shoving a protester to the ground who was peacefully kneeling with her hands up. And now the Miami Herald reports that that officer has been reviewed by Internal Affairs for using force 79 times in his roughly 3.5 years on the force. 79 times in 3.5 years. I haven't used shampoo that much in the same time period. And granted, I probably should have. But how many times do you have to get in trouble before you get fired? No other job works like that. If a commercial airline pilot had been investigated 79 times for flying upside down and doing barrel rolls while hammered on Goldschlager, we wouldn't be like, all right, man, 80 strikes and you're out. Of course, if it's more than 3 strikes, if it's ever more than 3 strikes, it's just not strikes anymore. It's T-ball rules. No one's getting sent back to the dugout. They just get sent off to first base thinking, I'm pretty good at baseball. And then there's New York City, where there have been countless videos of police violently escalating encounters with peaceful protesters and inflicting abuse with impunity. On Tuesday, the NYPD trapped thousands of protesters in a dangerous situation on the Manhattan Bridge for hours before letting them enter Brooklyn.
In New York City, thousands of protesters trapped on the Manhattan Bridge for hours. Police using barricades to prevent them from leaving either side of the bridge, a controversial tactic known as kettling.
All right, first of all, nothing that dangerous should have an adorable name like kettling. Kettling sounds like something Miss Doubtfire would make up on the spot to trick the kids into thinking she's British. What are you doing, Miss Doubtfire? Oh, just some kettling. Oh, a bit of the old kettling. And yeah, I have run out of modern television shows to watch, so I've been watching old movies that seem normal at the time, but in retrospect are kind of insane. Your husband puts on a wig and you don't recognize him. Okay. All right. Anyway, where was I? Oh, right. Second, why the hell are you trapping people on the Manhattan Bridge? Are you cops or the Green Goblin? Again, Green Goblin. Madman, access to high-tech weaponry. You can't kill a teenager in a unitard? Okay. Okay. The only time anyone should be trapped for hours at the Manhattan Bridge is when they decide to take a cab home during rush hour. And when that happens, you're technically not trapped there, you live there. The last time I took a cab across the Manhattan Bridge, I was stuck so long, I started getting mail there. Good rim shot, buddy. Thank you. The scenes we've all watched of police violently attacking protesters are more typical of authoritarian regimes than liberal democracies. And of course, some of the most harrowing examples have come from DC, where we've seen military helicopters descend on protests to scare them away, armed guards blocking the Lincoln Memorial, caravans of military vehicles rolling down streets, DEA agents authorized to conduct covert surveillance on protesters, and unidentified law enforcement officers without insignia or name badges refusing to identify themselves.
Today we're about 60, maybe 70 yards further away from the White House than we were yesterday, pushed back from that fence. And part of the story here today is the increasing militarization and federalization of the protest response on Washington, D.C. city streets. These men behind me are with the D.C. National Guard. They were brought out here a little bit earlier. They relieved a group who wore no insignia, just federal law enforcement officers who wouldn't identify themselves, wouldn't tell me where they were from, what agency they represented.
The worst part of this is that every stoner who cornered me at a party in college was right. We are living in a police state. So retroactive apologies, scooch. And of course, the most shocking example in D.C. was the violent attack on peaceful protesters near the White House to make way for the president to participate in his dumb photo op where he walked over to a church and held up a Bible that wasn't his, like a teacher who just found a porno mag in the back of a classroom. Guys, who is this? Fess up, or I'll have no choice but to conduct an investigation and inspect it myself. You're better than this, guys. You're better than this. Attacking peaceful protesters exercising their constitutional rights just so the president can have a photo op is a heinous crime against the Constitution, and as with all authoritarian regimes, they can only get away with it by warping reality and lying about it. Yesterday, the White House tried to claim they hadn't actually used tear gas, but other chemicals that just happened to cause tears.
No tear gas was used and no rubber bullets were used. So again, no tear gas was used, no rubber bullets were used.
Making that distinction, chemical agents were used.
Let me back up.
Episcopal priest who said she was gassed. Others say they were tear gassed in that area.
Well, no one was tear gassed.
Officials from the administration claimed that they did not use tear gas. All right, well, they used pepper balls and smoke flashbangs, which caused these images that you're seeing right now. So, all right, if you want to split hairs there, it's a distinction without a difference, right? Pepper balls and flashbangs share many similar effects of tear gas, including excessive tearing, lacrimation, which CNN's team on the ground witnessed. They experienced this. You can see the folks here in front of you experiencing it. The president wants a correction from the media that tear gas was not used, but in fact, by his own CDC's classification, it was tear gas.
If the CDC says it's tear gas, he's definitely not going to listen to them. The CDC also says sticking Tide-to-Go pens up your nose won't cure coronavirus, but I'm almost certain Trump's at least tried it. I can tell it's working because my brain is on fire. But the lies are not working, and you can tell because even Trump's defense secretary, Mark Esper, is now distancing himself from the photo op, although he's doing it with one of the most laughable excuses imaginable. Esper, who accompanied Trump to the church after the protesters had been attacked, told NBC News, "I didn't know where I was going." Esper said he believed they were going to observe the vandalized bathroom in Lafayette Square. Well, in his defense, anytime you follow Trump anywhere, you probably expect to see a bathroom get destroyed. Oh, even better. You're getting really good at it. All right, let's don't overstay your welcome. Seriously, you thought you were going to go see a vandalized bathroom? You don't need to gas protesters for that. Just go to any rest stop on I-95. In fairness to Esper, I could definitely see Trump wanting to take a field trip to see a vandalized bathroom. The wall said to call this number for a good time. Should we? I mean, it feels like we're living in a bad time. Maybe a good time is exactly what we need to turn this thing around. Should we just call? Use the White House number. I don't want to use my cell phone minutes. This is what authoritarian regimes do. They defend violent crackdowns on peaceful protesters by spreading lies and disinformation, and yet the Republican Party is, in most cases, either idly standing by or openly embracing calls for military violence towards American citizens. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton wrote a chilling op-ed for the New York Times called "Send in the Troops," in which he lied repeatedly about the demonstrations and called on the president to invoke a law known as the Insurrection Act to send the military into American cities to put down the protests. Cotton wrote, "One thing above all else will restore order to our streets, an overwhelming show of force to disperse, detain, and ultimately deter lawbreakers." Holy dude. Did you steal that line from General Hux? These guys want to tear up the Constitution so badly because they want to be ruled by a dictator so badly. Nothing would make them happier than them throw parties celebrating the end of democracy and load a confetti cannon with scraps from the Bill of Rights. But as sinister as this op-ed is, the more shocking thing is that the Times opinion page chose to run it. I mean, what are you guys doing? Our democracy is on a precipice and you decide to give it a push? I mean, just because it's a terrible opinion doesn't mean it deserves to be on the New York Times op-ed page. I mean, you wouldn't want to read "Baby Seals are asking for it, club away." A fun joke to tell with no live audience. It definitely would have groaned for it. And yet here, the same sound all the time. The Times editorial page editor, James Bennett, responded to backlash over the op-ed, writing, "Times opinion owes it to our readers to show them counter-arguments, particularly those made by people in a position to set policy. We understand that many readers find Senator Cotton's argument painful, even dangerous. We believe that is one reason it requires public scrutiny and debate." Wait, so your argument is you had to print a bad column in your newspaper so everyone would know it's bad? I mean, the logic makes no sense. If you go to a 5-star restaurant, the chef doesn't serve you Arby's first just to make sure you know it tastes like You're not legally obligated to run fascist calls for military occupation in your newspaper. Tom Cotton's a senator. He has plenty of ways to get his opinion out there. C-SPAN, all right, that's a bad example. But if your policy is that you're going to run bad columns full of lies for the sake of hearing counter-arguments, then I'm officially requesting that you run my op-ed, James Bennett's favorite movie of all time is Cats. I dare you to print it. Or are you too afraid of my controversial opinions? The president and the police establishment are lashing out at nationwide protests because those protests threaten a racist, unjust system that serves the powerful. They're deeply invested in protecting that system because at the core of it is the belief that the people in charge
can do pretty much whatever we want.
This has been a closer look. New York City is in crisis, and City Harvest has been stepping up to rescue and deliver more food to meet the increased need in New York City. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe. Wash your hands. We love you.